I love snow. I mean, it literally cannot snow enough, in my opinion. And recently, man, we've been in a bit of a snow drought around here. But it is super exciting to me today to be getting the first real snow of the season. There's only a little bit here, probably an inch of snow on the ground, but I want to get out here and show you some of the changes that I've made to my personal snow equipment here before this turns over to rain. So join me a little bit here today. We're going to walk around and talk about the new HLA Snow Pusher that's on my tractor and show you the surprising amount of features and configuration that can be done on something as simple as a snow push box.
Message, a helping hand with your land.
In case there's ever any questions of how do these tractors start in the cold, we've talked several times at this point, but modern diesel engines are not like old ones. So I've got the key turned on here and waiting for the glow plug indicator to turn off so I can sit here and turn the engine over and let it start to warm. Some of the newer tractors now, my LX here included, actually have thermostats in on the engine that will keep you from revving the engine up the whole way or beep at you a little bit until it raises up to operating temperature. And mine's not doing it here. It is only about 31 degrees outside. But sometimes you'll start these machines up and you'll hear a beep, beep, beep going and it's gonna say cold on the dash, at which time you should just let it sit here and idle a little bit before it warms up. Right now, I'm gonna take a look at my new HLA Snow Pusher. So previously you would have seen me running a snowblower on the back of my tractor, and not just any snowblower, a pull forward 3-point hitch snowblower, one where the auger faces the front of the tractor, you drive over the snow and then that snow gets handled by the snowblower and blown out the side. It's kind of the cat's meow of 3-point hitch snowblowers. It is a great setup. But so often since I've owned that, most of our snowfalls here anymore have been these light 1, 2, 3 inch snows. And a big snowblower like that just doesn't handle that kind of snow very well. It takes a certain amount of snow before it starts to get pulled up into the auger. And so a lot of our typical light Pennsylvania snowfalls are usually handled better by blades and push boxes. Snowblowers are fantastic, and I would be happy for one if we've got a good 6, 8, 10 inch snowfall where I've got more volume to clear. But for days like today where there's 1 to 3 inches that are going to be on the ground, this is a fantastic setup. Now, when I said before that there's a lot more features on a push box than what you might guess, it comes in all of its cutting surfaces, the places where it touches the ground. You can buy some very inexpensive push boxes from weld shops and a lot of different vendors that they can, build a simple U-shaped metal box. But when you get into adding accessories to them is when you start to have a lot of additional features, functionality, protection for your driveway. And it's those features and options that are things that we don't see from every vendor. That's part of why I ended up with an HLA push box here. So on my personal box, I'm gonna have a rubber cutting edge on the bottom. Most all push boxes are gonna have either a rubber or steel edge along the bottom. But I also opted to swap out the side skid shoes for a heavy plastic skid shoe. I installed a pullback edge up here on the top. It's hard with push boxes to clear out against your garage doors. This allows you to roll this over and pull the snow back away from the garage door with the top of this box right here. And on that, I also have another rubber edge. Now, I have an asphalt driveway and I've cleared that driveway for a couple years now using things with metal cutting edges on it. And while they're great, they scrape things clean, they take ice off very easily, they will mar that driveway every time. Now, after a couple of months goes by, that starts to fade, but I don't want to be doing that over and over and over again. So we're making the change here to something that has plastic or rubber surfaces, all the places that it's going to be scraping against the driveway. In terms of technique, when it comes to clearing snow with a loader or a push box or even a front blade that's out on the loader, it does take a little bit of practice and operation to kind of get the steering down right. A common complaint that you'll hear from people who use this kind of attachment to clear snow is that it's difficult to steer. If you drop your loader down into the ground and you leave it in float, as that load builds up in front of your tractor, your loader and your tractor are going to want to push together, and that's going to lift your front tires up off the ground and you're going to lose that front traction. So when I set this up to make my passes, I usually am going to use float to make sure I've got the loader drop down on the ground. But then I'm going to pop it out of float so that loader holds in place and stays in a straight line as I go to push, and that helps keep my front wheels planted and down on the ground so that I'm able to steer. First impressions here, I don't feel like my rubber edge scrapes as clean as what the steel ones do. Might be a little unsurprising. I kind of thought it might actually conform a little bit better. And maybe it could be because my skid shoes need to be brought up a little bit, but I feel like when I'm setting this up, I'm leaving a little bit more behind than what I would be used to with something with a metal edge on it. Another reason why I decided to pick up a box blade here is because I appreciate these simple metal implements. I have to store a lot of my attachments outside. I'm not lucky enough to have a big enough barn or garage to keep all these things in. And something like a push box like this is going to do just fine outside, right? No gearboxes, no shafts, no chains, nothing to rust and worry about. Is just a big solid piece of metal. Felt a little bit bad about that snowblower I was using previously because it was holding up okay and I was maintaining it to kind of look after those things. But I didn't feel like it made a whole lot of sense to keep an expensive piece like that sitting outside when for our usual snowfalls, it just wasn't that necessary. So this seems to be a great solution, right? It gives me an attachment that I can have to clean the snow that I don't have to worry about maintenance or weathering concerns. Some of you may question why I'm carrying around a Ironcraft flail mower on the back of my tractor here in the dead of winter. For me, I usually keep implements on the back of my tractor for ballast. As I'm going back and forth, it balances out the weight of that push box out of my loader. Also helps get a little bit more weight on my back tires. So you'll usually see me with an implement on my 3-point hitch, even if I'm not using that implement, because I like the extra weight on the back of my tractor. So one important feature on these boxes, one that I have here, is this pullback edge. So when it comes to my garage doors here, I can roll the box over and use that rubber edge to pull the snow back away from the door. A lot of times when you're shopping for these things, you can see some with, say, great, really low teaser prices on them, right? And that's often because they're missing the things like the rubber edges, the plastic edges, and specifically the pullback. There's a big piece of metal there that goes across the front of that isn't necessary all the time, right? If you're clearing parking lots and stuff, you may not need that. But for doing residential driveways, there's really no good way to get your tractor up against your garage doors without a pullback like this. So in this case, I could just pull up to the door, set the box down on the ground, and then back drag out and pull the snow back here to a place that I'm then able to drive crossways and sweep the pile away. There's definitely some trade-off here in the cleanliness of how scraped I can get the driveway here in terms of how much weight I'm putting on that box. So we were talking before about steering. If I go and I use my front tires and pick them up off the ground and put all that front tractor weight on top of that rubber edge, I can get a much cleaner sweep than if I let my tires on the ground, but then I can't steer. So you do have some option there, right? When you're just going in a straight line and you may not need the steering, sacrificing that steering for a little bit of extra pressure on top of that rubber edge is possible. So that's a little bit of my first hour out here with the HLA Snow Pusher. I hope to get out here again. I'll do some follow-up videos. We've got a lot more snow on the ground, and we can talk a little bit more about how it piles up in front of this pusher and how much snow we can get out in front of this tractor before the volume starts to become a problem, and something like a snowblower or a blade is going to be a little bit more productive than what one of these might be. But I was pretty happy out here as far as the first pass goes. And at least we got out here a little bit while the snow's coming down, not ever knowing what the weather's going to do this season. So shopping for a piece of equipment, you're looking for a snow pusher, you got parts or service needs for a machine you've already got, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373. or online at Messick's.com. Of snow equipment on my personal tractor, my B3301 back here. B3301, boy, I got the model number of my own tractor wrong.